Thank you for the powerful and poignant panel. We're going to take a few moments at this point and invite some responses. We have some questions and answers. I'm going to turn to Dr. Jaretta Marshall, who's going to speak to the panelists. So the panelists may want to turn off their mute buttons because you're about to get a question.
Thank you very much, Don. I appreciate the breadth of diversity of experiences that are on this panel. And it's one of the gifts of doing this kind of presentation is that there are lots of ideas and lots of thoughts. One of the questions that came was wondering if there's a starting list of what to look at, like forms, security questions, security concerns, things to be intentional about. I know there are some resources. There's a book on Ministry Among God's Queer Folks, I think is what it's called, that has some of those concerns. I always look for gender specific forms that I think need to be changed, but I'm curious if some of the panelists have other ideas, and we're going to do this quickly. So other ideas? Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in.
I think it's, a couple of years ago, bathrooms were the place that it started, right? We all changed signs and said, anybody or dinosaurs welcome. And I think that that's an easy step, right? In making some appropriate things. One of the things that I noticed is that we don't have diaper changing stations in men's bathrooms. And that's problematic, right? And so I think continuing to expand that every space that you go to be ADA, be open, genderless and gender positive in multiple ways are huge aspects of that. I would also really pay attention to where, depending on which annual conference you're in, your church profile. And highlighting some of those things in the church profile, the ways that you've made steps to be more inclusive, because part of the thing is also identifying for the rest of the system the ways that your individual church is moving and showing that you're actually putting action into work.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam. Anybody else? I do think the question about security and safety and recognizing that people have different experiences of safety and what that means, and that having conversations about that in the congregation and in the community are really important. So let me just ask each panelist very quickly to just respond to one other thing. What has sustained you in your journey? Because all of us have been doing this work over time. So is there one thing that you would see that has sustained you in particular in this part of the journey? I'll go first since I asked the question, so you can all think real quickly. My mother's telling me the story of going to a Sunday school class where she was told that gay people were not to be a part of the church, and the expression on her face and not knowing what to do about that continues to sustain me in this work. Others?
I would say for me, it feels very much a matter of life and death. My father, in his experience, tried to commit suicide because of being transgender in a culture that didn't have a way to practice full inclusion. And so I think about the many people in our congregations who are desperate to hear that they are beloved and fully welcome in all of their glory. So for me, it's personal, and it's driven by my sense of the gospel. And I have great people that I get to work with.
Thanks. Jamie Lee, you started to.
I was just going to say friends, clergy colleagues that you can rely on and trust that they will hold sacred space for you, as our bishop says, as they vomit all over you, whatever is in their hearts. That has been the most life-giving experience for me, is just being able to trust my colleagues that they will hold space for me and that they know I will hold space for them.
Thanks, Mark.
I would add those offline conversations with laity, that in hushed whisper, parents saying, "Hey, I've come to see this differently, and my own child has come out, and how did you deal with it as a father? How do you deal with it as a pastor?" And just those really tender conversations of trust and vulnerability makes all the difference in the world for me.
Thanks, Mark. Sam?
I would say working with the youth, every Thursday as we gather, I witness as parents drop their kids off. The kids will write one name tag with certain pronouns. And as soon as their parent's gone, it's a new name and new pronouns. They come downstairs and they put on a completely different outfit from our transgender closet, and they wear heels and a dress the whole time they're there, and they take it off right before they leave. And just being able to see what it means to be our true authentic self in the church basement where AA meetings typically happen, and just recognizing the freedom and liberation that really does come from what we can do through the work that we do because of Christ.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate your presence today.